Kenya Airways, yes, is indeed one of the biggest African carriers, but I still consider our size pretty modest. And I think that our biggest challenge for the years to come is to grow. African market, intra-African market, and we are an African carrier, if I may say so. So even I would say a sub-Saharan carrier, because this is where most of our traffic is located, suffers from a still very small market. So the demand is pretty limited, but the chances that this demand is growing. So our check and balance is that on one side we need to be very cautious with what we do because the traffic comes very slowly, but on the other side we see this traffic continuously growing. So this is why the policy that I'm pushing very much as CEO is that we cannot stop growing. The question is how quickly can we grow, how quickly can we afford to grow safely, but the shift I always insisted on is there is no good airline if the airline doesn't grow. There is no benefit in having a small airline when you have the mandate of being the so-called national carrier, because we have other carriers, of course, operating in and out from Kenya. So I think that that's one of the biggest short-term challenges we have, and when I mean short-term, I mean the next 3 to 5 years.
We've seen that Kenya Airways is rolling out new projects. Like, for example, there was a new code-sharing agreement that was signed with Alitalia Airline. What are some of the plans that Kenya Airways has for the future in regards to scaling?
You know, I'm absolutely convinced that the best way for an airline to improve itself is to grow its network. Actually, the network is the heart of what we do, because this is where we fly and how frequently we fly to those destinations. Our new destination to come that we're already selling is Rome and Geneva, two European destinations, which for us are combining both business and leisure traffic, and also institutional traffic because of the role of UN in Geneva and the role of UN in Nairobi, which is a big, if I may call it, UN city. So for us, it's a very big reason to fly there. Now, the co-chair with Alitalia is part of a normal cooperations between airlines. Alitalia is our long-lasting airline partner. We decided that it's going to be very good that we distribute our tickets through Alitalia, and Alitalia distributes their capacity through us. Actually, I hope that we're going to be the first, but Alitalia will also come to Nairobi, and we're going to have a close tie. Italian market is one of the top 5 markets for Nairobi in terms of tourism and also investors. So this is like, if I would say, a standard normal airline growth that we are doing, and we just announced it last week that we're going to be having this culture. As I said, I hope it's just the first move before we have Alitalia flying to Nairobi.
So Kenya Airways will continue with the purchase of the 10 Boeing 737 MAX 8 aircrafts despite the security concerns. Now, what impact will this have on the airline?
So there is two things in that. First of all, we will continue negotiating with Boeing because most of our fleet is our Boeings. And we were actually in talks with Boeing, pretty advanced talk on the acquisitions of the MAXes. But I wouldn't mix those two topics. Currently, there is a issue about the MAX, which were grounded as planes. So this has to be managed in the short term. And of course, not an airline will buy an aircraft if this aircraft has not been approved airworthy and has all the certificates. But you know, I'm trying to have a very balanced reaction. Of course, it's very worrying for an airline that there is a plane on the market that is not meeting absolutely 100% of the safety requirements. This is why actually everybody grounded them. This is why airline is the safest mean of transportation. So there is a short-term issue. I am a big believer that Boeing will know exactly what to do and where to go with it. It's not the first time that aircrafts are grounded. I myself lived the grounding of the 787 at the very beginning. So it's very tragic and unfortunate that it followed an accident. And that's maybe the big emotional difference, and that needs to be addressed separately. But for us as airlines, 737 family of aircraft is a very good, is a very good family. So I don't want to condemn and say that now that there is an issue, I'm not talking to Boeing, because that would be unprofessional and unreasonable, which doesn't mean that we are just going to run and buy this aircraft if it's not proven. I think that Boeing and us, but mainly Boeing, will have to conduct a very big communication operation, because it's not the role of the airline, to prove that the changes that were made, not only in the software, but also in the training of pilots, in the approach to introducing this aircraft, has been, duly reviewed, and is now able to prove to the customers that the risk is off. But unfortunately, we are in this industry where the public trust is absolutely the essential element. So this very unfortunate event will create now lots of attention and an additional obligation of communication, which I believe everybody will manage, and we will go forward.
We've seen that there was a time the Kenya Airways aviation workers had a union. They had a strike, and that created the airline to suffer losses. And then we also see that there was a proposed merger between Kenya Airways and Kenya Airports Authority, and it received mixed reactions. Now, what do you think is best for the airline, and how are you going to resolve the strike? What is happening, and the merger? What is the best for the airline?
Strike has been resolved because that was a fully legal strike. And despite 2 court injunctions, the union has made a very unreasonable decision to go on strike, and the union leaders ended up in jail. So my role is not to comment further on that. They took a decision for the members. That was the decision, but the strike lasted 5 to 6 hours. Okay, so that's, for me, it's the past. The proposal of doing a private-public partnership came indeed from Kenya Airways, but it's a process of PPP arrangement, and it's following a government decision. So as Kenya Airways, we are implementing something which was decided at cabinet level, because with the sovereign guarantee that Kenyan has gave us, Kenyan taxpayers, despite having different shareholding structure, de facto I consider that Kenyans own the airline, because they allowed the airline to survive 2 years ago. So this is a project which is very defined in time and in processes. So now we've submitted a proposal. There was a lot of political noise about this, but I guess that's part of the public debate. We were, as an airline, convinced that that's going to be done when we have the approval to just start the negotiations, because at this stage, when I'm talking to you, it's just a proposal that was submitted. No further steps were still taken. So as soon as they are taken, we will go forward with this project. But again, at the very end, it's a government process driven by a very precise law, which is the law on public-private partnership, and we'll follow this. We'll see what's going to be the outcome. I believe that it's very good, not for Kenya Airways itself. Of course, it's also good for Kenya Airways itself, but I would rather look at it as a big airline, civil aviation airline project, which allows to put national assets together, not to compete between themselves, but to align in what I was mentioning you at the beginning, to align and to contribute to the GDP.